keep Tony up till midnight. We'll keep talking here as long as we want to go. So I want to share these 4 things with you. And there's a lot more than 4 things, obviously. But when we look at each kind of movement pattern of what we do with an older adult, these are kind of the key components that I want you to look at. And so we're going to kind of dive into this, this one thing pretty deep. So I want you to stick with me as we go into this. Just so you know, this is 1/10, maybe even a little bit less, of what you're getting in TOAPEX 2.0, which is our entire new capstone course specifically targeted towards training older adults, and either as an individual and as a group, because we already did one for the individual about a year ago. We've changed our programming, we've improved, we're always on the grow. That's the beauty of TOA Select and our courses and everything else. We redo them every single year, but it's not like, oh, we're gonna sell this new thing to everybody. It's already included in your membership. Whatever new stuff we have, you get it. It's all in there. So the idea is we're gonna learn new content and new things that I get to practice in here. And as we practice those highly researched topics, and I see that anecdotally it works in-house, then I go, cool, let's put this to practice, and I'll bring it out to teach it everybody else, because we're only learning more about this, okay? So this is a small chunk, a very small chunk, if you will, of TOAPEX 2.0. 3.0 is already planned, everybody, and coming out in December. And as excited as I am about this one, we're about halfway through the programming for 3.0, and it's working really, really well. So I'm excited about that. We got all kinds of cool stuff kind of coming up. But anyhow, programming, you see the whole 8-week program here. This isn't a tease. That's the program. You guys, everybody sees it. That's the one that I use right here in-house. Our whole new progression, our next generation of programming, that's just the mobility menu. There are videos that go with every single one of those exercises that teaches you how to do them, progress them, regress them. Anyhow, a lot of good stuff. If you are interested, please head over to TOA. I'll talk about it a little bit at the end too. We'll dive into this. Okay, this is a slide. Okay, well, let me say this. Of the 4 things, number 1 is having statistical information, researched information that you can make arguments with your clients, okay? And I don't mean arguments like, no, you're wrong, you should do deadlifts. I mean, that is an argument to be made. But what I want you to think about is the client that comes in, and like the lady I had, they came in the door and she goes, is this TOA? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I thought this was an older adult training facility. And I said, it is. And she goes, where are all the chairs at? I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I've been to these before. There's chairs all over. Everybody sits down when they exercise. And I said, yeah, we don't do that here. And she went to walk out. And I said, well, wait a minute. What do you do? What are you looking for? And she goes, well, I just retired and I'm looking to get into a fitness program. I want to stay fit. And I asked her what she did for a living. What did you just retire from? And she goes, I was a farmer. And I said, did you do a lot of sitting down when you were farming? And she goes, no, I never sat down. And I said, well, that is kind of the whole point of this, is like, I would be providing you a disservice by bringing you into this program and having you sit down. I would help you age. I would help you get worse, right? Most people, though, weren't farmers their whole lives, where they're out there carrying and throwing and dragging and everything else. Being a farmer is a very physically demanding job. And so after I had the discussion with her, she agreed with me and still didn't sign up. And so I didn't provide her enough statistical information to make the argument. So that's what this is, okay? When someone comes in and they go, hey, I just don't know if I want to do this. I know I got to get in shape, but I'm worried about getting hurt with lifting. And I think I could just walk on the treadmill and watch what I eat and yada, yada, okay? The first thing that you want to educate them on is sarcopenia. Everybody knows osteopenia and or osteoporosis. They know those words inside. Oh, you mean bone density issues? Yes. When they say sarcopenia, they go, I don't know what that is. And you say, well, it's like atrophy. And they go, oh, I know what that is. And I said, yeah, it's like that, okay? It's like atrophy, but you have the loss of function to go with it. So it's not just the muscles shrinking, it's the muscles shrinking and the loss of function that goes with it, okay? So quickly, because I'm sure some of you have seen this slide before, welcome to everybody else that just kind of popped on. We just had a big flux of numbers of people log in. I'm Robert, thank you for being here. If you want more info about who I am, please go to our YouTube, you'll be able to see my story on there, but we're diving right into content. So I just saw our numbers jump up by 10. Welcome everybody. All right, so poverty of the flesh, that is Latin. Sarcopenia is Latin for poverty of the flesh. It was declared an official disease in 2016, which is really good depending on what country, which state you're on in the United States, what country you're in, what each healthcare program will now recognize if you are diagnosed with a disease, you can either have your health insurance either cover or assist in physical therapy, behavioral counseling, and or personal training or a gym membership. So if someone is diagnosed with sarcopenia, it's not a good thing that they have the disease, but it's good that they've been diagnosed with it and that it is officially a disease now. Because a lot of times people go, well, it's a financial commitment. Well, hey, if your insurance can help kind of get this thing started, that's a good thing. Okay. Now, this 25 to 45, well, I don't want to jump the shark. 25 to 45% of those over the age of 50 have sarcopenia. Okay. That's a big chunk of people. And again, that's a big variety from 25 to 45. Not everybody know, okay, is it on the low end, on the high end? It kind of depends, but I will tell you, I think it's much higher. Okay. I'm jumping the shark here a little bit. 55% of those over the age of 80 have sarcopenia. So a pretty good chunk of folks there too. All right. Being in terms of how far gone is my sarcopenia? Basically 6 months is the line in the sand that we talk about. If you have an injury, you fall and break your leg, you're on crutches for 8 weeks, you get your cast off, you look down at your leg, you're full-blown sarcopenic in that leg. And if you didn't do anything with the rest of your body, you're probably sarcopenic everywhere, okay? Now, what I mean by that is your leg has shrunk. And so you'd go, oh, my leg atrophied. Yeah, it did. But if you tried to run or sprint or jump on that leg, what would happen? It would just buckle over. It would not perform the way that it did before. And so now there's the loss of function. Everybody follow me on that? It's not just the shrinking of the muscle, it's the loss of function that goes with it. Now, does that mean I can't get it back? Absolutely not. You can rehabilitate, you can build it back. But if you don't do anything for 6 months, you just let it stay shrunk and you just like, I'm just gonna walk around and just sit on the couch. If you do that, the potential to get it back to where it was drastically goes down. If not, doesn't exist. So rehabilitation and building back from injury is extremely important the older that we get. And that 6 month line is kind of the difference between acute sarcopenia and chronic sarcopenia, and kind of deciding if you can build back or not, okay? Now, the development of this weakness leads to all kinds of stuff: decrease in strength, stability, ability, and power. Power is the big one because that, in terms of older adults, this power production is what's keeping us from falling down, being able to move and manipulate our body really quickly, okay? And as a result of that, you're gonna experience osteoarthritis, arthritis, osteoporosis, all three, osteosarcobesity. That's about 30% of the US population. Oh, no, the North American population. Sarcopenia, osteopenia, and obesity, they have all three of those, okay? Over 50, about a third of those folks have all three of those. So it's of great concern. Thoracic lordosis, that's the curving, the old man, curve and spine, the frozen neck, the shoulders are forward, increased fall risk, etc. Now, when we look at bone density, okay, we see that as this happens, the problem with the beauty with sarcopenia is I can literally watch people get weaker, okay? I can see them from week to week to week and watch them get weaker. What you can't see is you can't see their bones, right? You can't see their bones. You can't see like, oh boy, it's been a while. That individual has osteopenia or osteoporosis unless you're a really trained eye. And I still like, this is probably the worst demographic to do it at because everyone walking into the building is sick. But if you sit at the pharmacy while you're waiting for your meds or whatever it is, you're waiting for your appointment and just watch everybody walk by, you'll be like osteopenia, 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 sarcopenia, osteopenia, sarcopenia, obesity. Like you can just see all of them coming in. And it's so disheartening. It's so disheartening because I'm like, I could help all of you, right? If there was a way to do this, if people would just hear the message, right? Let's just start walking, lifting a little bit of weight. You could fix so much, okay? Anyhow, you can start to see this because the frailty component comes in. And you can see how weak the bones are, how weak the stature is, how small their gait is. All of this lends to them being a really frail, a really weak, and a really brittle individual, where if they do fall down, instead of just like getting a bruise, things shatter and fall apart. And basically falls and breaks equal a really poor quality of life. About 70% of those either lead to full disability and or death. And I don't mean necessarily that you died because of the fall, like in that moment you fell and you died. That does happen, but not terribly often. It's you fell, you broke your pelvis and 3 vertebrae and your leg. And now the ability to rehabilitate at 77 years old If you're that frail and that weak, it just doesn't exist. Like, just so few people will recover from that within 3 to 6 months. They're gone. Do they ever walk again? Do they ever get out of bed again, etc.? We've seen really vitally blooming, strong, energetic people fall, break their hip, and in 6 months they're gone. And I just don't want that. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've had it in my family. I just don't want it. So that's probably where a lot of my extremely fast talking, my over energetic personality comes from. When I get into this, is it's really personal for me. You know, it's really personal for me. I don't want to go too deep on that. If you know the story of my dad and that whole experience over the last 2 to 5 years, then you know what I'm talking about. I have a lot of other videos and basically a podcast or a webcast every Wednesday that's kind of dedicated to that. You can learn more there, okay? Now, just to wrap this slide up, as we kind of talk about bone density, you're going to have different DEXA scans that you can do, and there's scoring systems in here on what's good. That's always great to have. Some of them are more expensive, etc. But it is nice to get an idea of where you're at. And this is a gradual decrease right around the age of 35. That's what these little charts over here show, male and female, okay? And right around 30, 35, you're going to start to decline in bone density. You're going to start to decline in muscle mass. All of this is going to start to deteriorate if you don't do something about it. We'll talk about this chart here on the bottom right in just a moment, called the disability threshold. New bone is constantly growing. Okay, old bone is absorbed by the osteoblast. Easy way to remember that. Blasts, the blasters, they're like, boo, 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 they're blasting away all the old bone. And the osteoclasts are coming around, they're clasping it all back together again, building in new stuff. So that's a cool little way to remember this whole process when you explain it to people. Terms that as you age, the blasters get more dynamic and the clasters don't, unless you're eating well, sleeping well, etc. Doing all these things that we talk about with resistance training to really help boost your body's ability to build bone mass, okay? Now, if you look at the chart here on the bottom right, there are many different versions of this. I've shared probably 5 or 6 different versions of this, okay? Because I like this one in particular because it really kind of showcases a little bit of what a normal decline would be for someone, okay? You have muscle strength and function going up the y-axis, up the y-axis, and then your x-axis going across with the age. And your black line decline is kind of normal. If somebody is just living life, they don't particularly pay attention to anything, they don't particularly lift or do anything, they just go through life, probably right around 65 to 70, they're going to die, and they're going to hit that disability threshold probably somewhere around 55 to 60, okay? What that line means, the disability threshold, it means that someone else is now going to be, you are now reliant on someone else. Someone else is going to have to help take care of you. And this could be a family member or a paid person or whatnot. You just can't do it on your own anymore. Even the activities of daily living, buttoning and clothing yourself and feeding yourself and toileting and bathing, all that stuff, you're going to need assistance with that, okay? Which is probably the number one goal of any older adult we get, is that they don't want to lose those abilities, those ADLs, okay? So with that normal decline trickling down like this, you're going to hit that around 55, 60, and then another 5 to 10 years, okay? If you're lucky to get that far, they'll pass. Now, if they're in a catastrophic injury, something happens, a car accident, blah, 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 it might end even earlier than that. That's the orange line. If you do just a little bit of walking, a little bit of paying attention to healthy habits of food and nutrition, not drinking too much, sleeping well, etc., you're the yellow line. That whole thing we just described is bumps up 10 years. But if you really put in a good effort, resistance train 2 to 3 times a week, you go out on walks daily, you eat well, you sleep well, you recover, you're social, there's engagements, right? You have sunlight in your life, you have people in your life, you have good energy in your life. You may never hit the disability threshold, and we call that going out with your boots on. That's a term that I will use with my clients. I want you to go out with your boots on. You're 105, you're out skydiving, and you just die from a heart attack. That would be ideal, okay? A little morbid to talk about it, I get it, but that would be ideal. What I don't want to happen to you is you're 80, like my grandmother, you're stuck in bed, and she didn't die until she was 90, everybody. 10 years of being bedridden and my aunts having to take care of her, a complete dependency. 10 years, she didn't leave her bedroom. I just don't see that as a huge quality of life. I don't wish that on people. And so had I been able to get to grandma earlier, I would like to have been able to rescue that and have her live to 88, out doing everything she could do every day, and then it's over with in a couple of hours. My dad was up and about and working out with me, and things were going great, and within 48 hours it was over with. He went from up and about and doing things in his house, right? Getting up in the middle of the night, walking up and down the stairs, doing all the things he was doing, and 4.5 hours later, he was gone. And that I feel like is a blessing. I want it to be that way for people so they don't have to see that 10-year deterioration. You don't want negative images in your mind of people just being miserable at the end of their life. I have 0 of those of my dad, and I'm so happy about it. Sorry to harp on this and be on this slide for so long, but I want you to get the message. I want you to take pictures. If you email me, well, I think I have everybody's email, but if you email me direct, I'll send you these PowerPoint slides if you would like them, but feel free to grab screen grabs, okay? Now, more than likely, you just saw this pop up on the screen, and we don't have these numbers yet. We're supposed to get them sometime this year. They're supposed to do them every 3 years. Is that the numbers we just got on sarcopenia I shared with you up there, more than likely are going to increase by about 30% because they had about 2 years where everybody sat down, and a lot of older adults did not exercise, they didn't leave their homes. They were so scared and afraid. So a lot of those numbers I think are going to go up, okay, by quite a bit, a significant chunk. And unfortunately, we're rolling back, and especially here in California, we're rolling back to having high COVID numbers, and people are starting to, and cities are starting to go back into some of these practices, which I think are only going to encourage people not to exercise again, okay? Now, on the bone density side, women are 3 times more likely than men to have these issues. And this is a premenopausal and a postmenopausal component. You have testosterone, you have estrogen in your body, way less testosterone than men, but as you're aging, all those numbers decrease. Then you get premenopausal, the numbers go all over the place. You go through menopause, and then afterwards, if you have some hormone replacement and such, things can help moderate that. But going through all those processes, we're talking 15 to 20 years from that 30 to 50, 30 to 60, somewhere in there. As you go through that process, bone density issues, I mean, they skyrocket. And so women are leading by far 3 to 1 over men with bone density issues, falls, breaks, damage, poor quality of life, everything that I just shared with you, okay? One more page. I just want you to grab a screen grab of this if you can really quick. And this kind of showcases the, if you have a question, hold on, I'll come back. Oops, let me go back to that page. Go back. Right there, okay. One more here where you can kind of see this is how quickly the early onset of sarcopenia can come in, okay? And in this case, after 2 days, if you were, you fall, you break your leg, and we're not moving much, that early onset of atrophy, it's happening. You're losing 1.7% of your muscle volume within 2 days of just laying there. 7 days, 5.5%. 10 days, you have early onset sarcopenia, because now, remember, the function of the muscle mass that you're losing, now it's kicking into effect where it's not just the size anymore, you're losing the function. 14 days, you were full-blown sarcopenic with that percentage of decrease, 6% in power, 8% decrease in strength, and 5.5% in muscle mass. The study to prove that is to the left, okay? This was done right at the beginning of the pandemic. They've done it twice since. They got the exact same numbers. Really, really cool how they were able to do that. Not so great for the people that had to go through it, but they were able to replicate this in 2 different studies. You'll see the other study on the right there, how much muscle mass was lost. And in both cases, okay, these folks over 2 weeks lost upwards of 3.3 pounds of actual muscle mass. Okay, and that was only in 10 days, not in 14 like in the previous one. But both of them, to get back the 6, 8, and 5.5% and the 3.3 pounds of muscle mass took 6 months. Okay, what was lost in 10 to 14 days took 6 months to gain back. So you can see when I talk about how important it is for us to do this, and when our clients like, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks, why to me, I'm like, no, because I know they're not going to do anything, right? Even if we try to program it. But if you can tell them about this stuff, if you can share these slides, if you can talk to them about this, okay, then these are the things that hopefully will get stuck in their mind and go, actually, I want to work out while I'm there. Can you give me some things to do? In most cases, what I tell my clients, when you get there, take a picture of the weight room and send it to me. And I will send you a workout that matches that weight room, okay? Or you could just pre-make workouts that are just for dumbbells, because almost every hotel gym you go to, they have at least dumbbells, okay? So I have like 6 of those made up, and I just send them out. I just say, here you go. I just send them out. Have ones that are just bands, because all of our clients own bands. We do something along those lines too, okay? And my bottom line here is 168 hours in a week. I'm asking for 3 half-hour sessions. The other 166.5 hours, do whatever you want. Enjoy your vacation. But if you could give me 3 half-hour sessions throughout the week to help you maintain, I don't want you to gain necessarily while you're on vacation. Just don't lose. Just don't go backwards, okay? That's our goal. I'll help you gain when you're here. When you go on vacation, let's just not lose. All right, so there's your statistical information. I saw a hand pop up with a verbal question. Can you save that for me till the end? Because I get rolling, I wanna make sure, but I'm happy to answer your question. Feel free to type it or just save it to the end and I'll turn your mic on and we can go through it at the end, okay? More than happy to do that. All right, number 2, and this is where we're gonna get a little more visual. I'm gonna get up and start to demo some stuff. I encourage you to join me. Okay, feel free to do that. Number 2 is, now that our clients are armed with the information, you're armed with that information, you're gonna have these discussions. So a couple of key components to this. The discussion is, I need to get more stable in my joints. That will help me not fall down. I need to get more mobile in my joints or my body. That'll help me not fall down. I need to get more strength in my body. That will help me not fall down. What's the right answer in any of those? Some of the models that you'll see out there, they will literally tell you, well, it's this one, and once you achieve that, then you step to this one, and once you achieve that, then you step to that one. And then ultimately after those 3, then you can do power training. And I cannot disagree with that more because our bodies don't work that way, okay? All of these systems, all of these abilities are being trained at the same time. What we need to do is train mobility, stability, strength, speed, power, all of that, all at the same time. It has to happen in every session. I can't just say, well, I'm going to do stability first for 6 weeks, and then I'll start to work on blappity blap, whatever the next one is. Bodies don't work that way. Will you gain stability if you only do stability training? Absolutely. You'll probably get a little stronger too. But what if we just started resistance training? Would you get stronger and more stable? Yeah, probably, but maybe not as mobile. Do you see what I'm coming at? Whatever one we pick, you'll probably get better at it, but what about all the other ones? And we're listing them all because they're all vitally important. So the question that lends to, well, what do? We need to implement exercises, what we call a mobility menu that increases range of motion and primes the body to move well. And then after that, do a lift under load that will help you increase function. So now we're going to become more able, we're going to become more mobile, we're going to become more stable, but we're also going to become more strong and stable and powerful, okay? And we can do all of that by literally doing 2 things. And so the example I'm going to give you is via the hinge, because this whole kind of thing is trending. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is one of 10 things that I do in the new course. This is just the hinge. And we talk about this specifically for all the other movement patterns, okay? So it's really 7.9% or something because there's 12 of them, right? But I mean 10%-ish. All right, so I'm going to teach you this mobility exercise, and I'd like you to do it. Then we're going to do some load. I'd like you to do that, and then we're going to put them together, and we're going to see if you improved, okay? So we're going to do something called the hinge and hold. Then we're going to add a squat hold to it, and then we're going to do a stand and a reach, and we're going to kind of marry all those together. These are the articles that we reference. I just wanted you to be able to see those as we go through it, as I go now back to screen here to kind of dive into this, okay? Give me a wave on participants, everybody, if you will. Am I full screen right now? Are you seeing me full screen, or are you all seeing a picture of me around a full screen? Give me a hand wave. I'm full screen? Okay, good. I am seeing another picture of me, like the promo picture that we put up. I'm seeing it around me, and it's bothering me, but as long as you guys are seeing me, then we're good. Okay, we can lower hands. Excellent. We'll put that down, and let's get into this. Okay, so this first one, if you want to do it with me, come on up, okay? Go ahead and do this with me. I can't see you, unfortunately. It's a webinar, so I can't see you. Normally in meetings, I would do it. We will need a weight at some point, okay? You don't have to, but you can do one. Now, we do an assessment in here where I put a tape measure against the wall. If you know Christian Thompson with Mobility Matters, he teaches this hinge and reach, where you put the tape measure at the shoulder, and you'll have them hinge with their toes at the 0 line, and they'll reach out, and you'll try to measure how far they can reach. And it's a great assessment. As I started to do this with my older adult clients, what I noticed is with the frozen shoulder impingement issues, they can't get their arms high enough to measure the tape if it's at their shoulder height. Do I care what the actual number is? No. There is no correlation like, oh, you're 80, it should be this. You're 50 and it should be that. I don't have that information. Christian's developing some of that, but what I want to look at is what can you do now and what are you going to be able to do? Where are we going to be able to improve that? So I move the tape measure from the shoulder, I put it down at the hip, because everybody can hinge with their hands at their hips and at least get their arms to that height. I have yet to have one person that can't put their hands to hip height, even in a hinge. But I've had a lot of people, probably more than half, that can't reach up to shoulder height when they're hinging, okay? So not that you need to do this assessment. I teach it to you in the course, okay? But here, what I need you to understand is what we're looking for is an individual able to displace their hips and hinge and then reach their arms out in front of them. And then we'll put a number to this. We'll measure this and it'll be like 88 centimeters, okay, on the left hand. And then I'll have them do it with their right, and it's like 90 centimeters. Okay, there's always going to be one side that's a little bit better. And then you do it with both hands, and it's like 80. So we have 80, 88, 90, something like that. Okay. Now we want to take that pre-measurement and train for 8 or 12 weeks, and then we come back and we measure it again, and we go, okay, they improved. Well, how do we get that improvement to occur? Okay, and that's what we're going to do now. Is I'm going to show you 2 mobility exercises that we do, one without load, one with load, and then the lift that will help us improve that. Okay, so if you would, just go ahead and set up your feet in just kind of a regular like squat stance for me. And the first one in this is the hinge and the reach. And you're just going to reach as far as you're comfortable. Okay, so watch me first, then you do it, right? I'm going to displace my hips, push my hips back as far as I can. I want you to visualize a file cabinet drawer open behind you, and you're going to shut it with your butt. Notice I lift up on my toes a little bit as I go into that hinge, right? And then once I'm in that hinge, I want to tuck my chin down like I'm holding a softball against my chin to my chest. So I'm kind of looking down at a 15 to 20 degree angle. And then I'm going to reach my hands up via the thumbs. And I'm going to try to get as long as I can as I'm in that hinge, right? So let's go ahead and do that together now, okay? All right, hips first. Push your hips back, 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 back. Lift your toes up a little so you can feel your hamstrings. This really good stretch. Then tuck your chin down just a little bit. And then your thumbs come up, 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 up. Reach as long as you can. We're going to hold that for 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. Okay. Now the next one, we're going to stay in that position. I'm just going to have you start to flex your knees, and we're going to slide all the way down into a squat. And if your feet shift a little bit, that's fine. You shift to wherever your squat stance is. But I'm going to have you keep your thumbs out. I'm going to have you keep your chin tucked, and you're just going to sit down in that squat position. And we're going to hold that for 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. And then from there, I'm going to keep my thumbs up. I'm going to keep my head in this position. I'm just going to drive the top of my head up, and I'm going to return to the standing position. So let's do it together, okay? All right, we're standing. Let's hinge. Let's reach. 1, 2, 3. Bend the knees, squat, squat, squat all the way down. Let's hold. 1, 2, 3. Come up in 1, straight up, and then let's return. Pretty simple, okay? So with each of these, we're going to do 5. I want you to notice, as you're doing this, are you able to get a little lower and a little lower and a little lower? Typically, the answer will be yes as we do this. And so someone will go, hey, look, I'm getting more mobile, okay? You're not. You're just loosening up, right? Your body's loosening up, which is what I wanted to do when we do dynamic mobility like this. So now when we go squat and we have to do everything under load, then I can increase my mobility. Then I can improve flexibility. All of these other things can occur because my body is primed to move at a deeper range of motion. And then when you add load to that, spurring some kind of change and overload, the SAID principle, all of those scientific things that we all know from the first 3 chapters of all of our textbooks, right? I'm going to implement and impose a demand, extra weight, and I'm going to specifically apply that to the squat depth and my range of motion. There's my imposed demand. I'm going to have a specific adaptation to that, which is now I can squat a little deeper. But that does not occur without an imposed demand. There's got to be something more than just your muscles warming up, okay? And if you disagree with this, go look at Stuart McGill's research, go look at Dean Somerset's research. They have, well, they're both university guys, so they have hundreds of articles from their students and such that are all working on this, but they specifically have like 3 or 4 each that really break this down well. And they kind of show us, yeah, you can increase with static flexibility, this and that in the moment, but then when we come back a couple hours later, we're right back to where we started. Basically, you're just warming up rubber bands. They'll be more pliable, right? And then once you let them be and they go back to room temperature, well, they're tight again. So how do we actually make the rubber band longer? This is how we do it, all right? So let's do these 5. Then we're going to add load. I'm going to show you the next exercise, and we'll do a couple more of these, and you tell me how you feel, all right? Okay, we're going to do them all. So everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. There's 37 people on here, right? You should all be up doing this. Don't just sit here and watch us. Okay, that'll be awkward. That'll be weird. Okay, feet are set to squat. Everybody ready? All right, we're gonna go semi-quick so we can get through it. Okay, here we go. Hinge and reach. 2, 3. Squat. 1, 2, 3. Stand up. 1, 2, 3. We hinge. 1, 2, 3. We squat. 1, 2, 3. We stand. 1, 2, 3. We hinge. Reach, 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 reach. 2, 3. We squat. We go deep, 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 deep. 2, 3. We stand. 1, 2. 2 more. We hinge. Reach, reach, reach. We squat. Deep, deep, deep. We stand. 1, 2, 3. One more. We hinge. 2, 3. And we squat. 2, 3. And we stand. Okay. So did you feel a little bit better with each of those? Like things are starting to loosen up. Again, I'm only showing you one. We've got that whole list I showed you at the beginning. There were like 30, 22 of them on there. Okay. We're gonna do that, all this. Okay. All this good stuff. So now, if you have a weight, I don't expect you all to be at the gym. So if you have a weight, let's grab one. If you don't, get a backpack. It's just something that you can have a little extra load on. And you don't need it at the moment. Just watch, okay? So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna do a goblet can opener skier squat. One of my favorite lifts we do with our clients. We can do this in space. We can do it seated, okay? So I'm gonna hold my weight and then watch my elbows. I'm gonna squat. I'm gonna park my elbows on my thighs. I'm gonna push my knees apart. I'm gonna hold this position for 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna push my butt up into the air, stretch it. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna go back down. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going back up. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going back down. 1, 2, 3. Just from those two, look how much deeper I am. Okay. This is an individual with degenerative disc disease, arthritis and osteoarthritis in my back, 2 hip replacements, and tight as shit hamstrings. Okay. When I tell you I've been increasing my mobility and my flexibility by doing this, that squat did not exist 2 or 3 years ago. And we've built that depth in myself, being as stiff and as tight as I am. It's not great. It's a hell of a lot better than it was. Okay. Like so much better. I'm able to get in and out of positions like little cars that there was no chance of me getting in and out of before. And that's the point. Okay. I'm not going to become a Taekwondo expert and be able to kick over my head. Those days are gone. But if I could just move a little bit better and be a little more pliable, I would feel a hell of a lot better about it. Right. That's the point. And doing these, this is again, just the one, all the other ones we have, this is how we're able to get ourselves a little bit better. Okay. So let's join now. I'll show you, this is kind of the more advanced one. And I'll show you the seated one. Okay. It's a little bit of a revision. So let's do this together. And again, I'm using an 8 kilo kettlebell. It's not a ton of weight. It's just additional load. Some imposed demand to help me react so I can specifically adapt. Okay. All right. We're holding in tight. Feet are set to squat. Let's squat down. Elbows on the inside of your thighs. Push apart. Hold that tension. You should feel your adductors stretching. And we're going to hold here for 1, 2, 3. Now, when I come up, I'm going to try to straighten my legs and I'm trying to flatten my back as good as I can. And if you're tight, I mean, I'm not straight, guys. I'm trying my best, but I'm not. Okay, I'm trying my best. We hold that for 3. And then we go back down again and we sit into that squat, push apart, head and chest up, lower down. And then we go back up again, stick it up, stretch it, try to flatten your back. And then we go back down. We're going to do 2 more of these. And then we go back up, flat, 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 as straight as you can get your legs, straight as you can get your back, and then back down, a little deeper, push those knees apart, sit into it a little bit, and then back up, stretch, 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 and then back down, and relax, okay? Did you feel better? Did you feel more mobile, like you got a little deeper? Things start to loosen up. That's why we call it a can opener. You're prying that shit apart, letting people move a little bit better. My hips feel so much better when I do this. I come out, you know, I've told my history a little bit. I train early. I get up at 2 a.m. I'm in here by 2:30. I train from 2:30 till about 4:45, 5 o'clock. Like, what are you doing out here for 2 hours? Okay, 2.5 hours. Takes me a good half hour to get my body to loosen up like this. Okay, I've had 17 surgeries. I've got ailments, right? But then I'm able to train and take my time. I can't push at the high intensities I used to. This is me knowing my body. Why do I do it at that time? Because I don't want to spend 2.5 hours when my kids and my family are all up and able, and I miss out on all that time. So I do it early. And then when my kids go to bed at 7, I go to bed at 7. So I don't sit up at night, you know, and hang out with my wife or anything. We have our time at other times. She's out here at 5 a.m. joining me for the second half of the workout. That's our time to hang out as well, okay? So just to kind of give you an idea of priorities. Some people may need an hour. Some may need 2 hours. Some may need their own personal menu to do before their training sessions with you. That's great. It's just going to take discovering some of this with each person to find out, okay, these are the ones that work. These are the ones that don't work. And you might have some people with disc issues, with pinched nerves, where what I just did aggravates them. You won't know until the PT says so, or they try it and they go, oh, I didn't like that one. It aggravated me. Okay, well, when we take that one off the list, everybody's going to be different. But for most folks, this should work pretty well, okay? All right, so here's a revision of the same thing. We're just going to do it from the seated position. Why do the revision? Well, because going too deep can be bothersome, but I can still get the high hamstring stretch benefit with the load of the high part, but maybe just not so much the low part. So we'll use this as a primer in our warm-up, and then the workout, we'll do what I just showed you, okay? So same setup. I've got my weight, I'm hugging, I'm pushing my knees apart, and I'll go to my high hinge, stretch, 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 and then I'll come back down to the seated position, unload my weight on the bench, push my knees apart, get that adductor stretch. Come back up, stretch, 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 come back down, have a seat, unload. Back up, stretch, 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 back down, push apart, unload, okay? So that's a smaller, a smaller version, a more modified version. Again, on an 18-inch box, I could get a 12 and put 2 AirX pads there, and that would take me to 14, 16 inches. I could do the same thing 2 inches lower. Maybe you take one of those pads away, now I'm 2 inches lower, and I can work through a range to where if 12 inches equals what I was doing in space the first time, then I'm winning, but I'm getting a chance to deload my body weight at the bottom so I don't have to hold it, which is usually where the disc is going to start to aggravate because it's holding under tension and a deep flexion. Well, if I can deload and sit down on a box at that point, it won't have to hold. It'll get to shut off, but I can still reap the benefit of getting that deep. Everybody follow? Okay, I hope so. I hope so. All right. Boy, we're almost up to 40 people. This is so cool. So happy to see so many names on here. I'm just scrolling through to see everybody. Hey, there's my wife. Hey, honey. I didn't know you were going to be on here. She's at an appointment right now. Happy to see you. Okay. Crushing it. All right, let's get back to work. Let's get back to work. I'm rambling. I've got 2 more things to cover in 20 minutes to do so. You know, we didn't really put a time window on this, so we're all in for the next 90 minutes, everybody. I hope you know that. I will do my best to end on time, I promise. All right. Oh, I see comments. I see stuff coming up. Okay. Yes, I will send out the replay for sure. I know some of you have to go get classes, etc. AirX pad is a squishy 2-inch pad. Most people kneel down on them. AirX, I can put a link in for you too. If you go to Perform Better, and any of the other companies out there, they just sell these little pads. They're like 18 inches by 18 inches. It's a little square, and they're 2-inch increments, and they're squishy. So you can kneel on them, that kind of thing. Great to go in between boxes like this and to help out with that. All right. So you see the research on that. We went through that specific movement, and that pattern is going to prime us and help us improve our mobility for what? Well, we're going to get into our deadlifting here in just a second, but what tempos now are we going to work once we do go to do this lift? So if you look back at the very first slide that I showed you, it had, let me go back to that really quick, just so everybody, okay, hold on. We're going to time warp everybody. Okay. We're time warping. Hang in there. We're time warping. Okay. This guy right here. I want you to look at weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody see those? It says sibling superset, eccentric lift, true hurt. Everybody see those? Okay. That's what we're talking about here. Is one of the newest components that we've plugged in here is that eccentric lift week. Now, I've presented and given information in Apex 1 for sure. Okay. That is in detail the basics of supersets, trisets, teardowns, anything that's traditional strength training or variations of it. In detail, we have it in there. I have talked ad nauseum about hurt training, high intensity resistance training. If you haven't seen those talks, go to the webpage, or if you're a Select member, just put that in the search engine in there. You'll find 8 or 10 different talks that I've done on that. What we don't know a lot about, and what is fairly new, not to the industry, but specific to aging populations, is the benefit of eccentric training, okay? And that's where over the last 1.5 years, 2 years with my dad especially, is we've started to implement more eccentric training to massive benefit. And some of the research articles you'll see on here, they talk about resistance training for regular demographics, but also as you start looking at aging bodies, how does it benefit? Does it improve their mobility and their function? And does it improve their strength and stability? And the answers to all that are yes. This was an article in 2022, another one in 2018, another one in 2019. Start to see some of these being done with just varied tempos of the lift. It's not really doing anything different to the lift. It's just varying the tempo, okay? And so the best example I can give you of this, not the best, but a example that I can give you of this, of which I feel like is the best protocol. Whenever we talk about tempo training, which ones are kind of the most efficient, the most effective? And I'm gonna go full screen here just to show you these. I'll come back to that, okay? So a regular lift, let's just stick with the hinging pattern that we're doing here. With a regular lift, with weight, without weight, whatever we're doing, we're gonna do a lifting tempo of 2 to 1, 2:1. What does that mean? Okay, almost everybody has read that in our book somewhere, but not everybody really knows exactly what that means. So the 2 is the eccentric phase of the lift. In the squat or in the deadlift, it's the down phase. And then the 1 is the concentric phase on the way back up. Is it always in that order? No. Okay, take the lat pull down. The initial movement of the lat pull down is the concentric phase of the lats, and then you have the eccentric phase going up. So I'm assuming at some point somebody said, hey, do we always list like the first action first or the second action second? Like, how do we list this? And they said, well, if we always go by the muscle being targeted, let's list the eccentric phase first, the concentric phase second, and if there's ever a third number, that'll be an isometric hold under tension, okay? So imagine the number is 2-1-1. That would be lat pull down. It would be a 1 down, a 1 second pause, and a 2 second return. In the deadlift, it would be a 2 second down, a 1 second pause, and a 1 up. If you didn't get that, don't worry about it. My point is, you can't just use whatever goes first and list it because it's always going to be different compared to the left. The point is you have to have some kind of order to how we do it, and it's always eccentric, concentric, under tension. Okay, so if you just remember that, the first number is always the eccentric. And it's like, well, the eccentric of what? Whatever muscle group you're targeting. Okay, and in the deadlift, we're targeting the quads and the glutes. Okay, hamstrings too. But they're all eccentrically stretching on the way down. They're all concentrically coming together as we come up. Okay, so home base, what I call it, home base is 2 to 1. Okay, just remember in Hitch, when he's like, here's home base, right? You don't go away from home base, you stay here. This is home base. You're always going to have a good 1 second down, 2 seconds down, 1 second up. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. That's home base. If you can just master that on all the lifts, that'll be great. What do most people do? 1 by 1 by 1 by, they're always in a hurry because high intensity training, HIIT training, CrossFit, blah, blah, blah. Everything's just as fast as we can go. Not if we want to get people really, really strong. That'll get them super conditioned, but can they move heavy load like that? No, okay? So now let's talk about eccentric tempos. The reason I had to go through all that to explain to you is when I say 4 to 1, you wouldn't know what the hell I was talking about until I explain it. So now it's 4 to 1 or 4 to 1 to 1 because we want to do a hold at the bottom, okay? Now I can do it as a squat. I can do it as a deadlift, whatever you want. I'll do a squat, okay? So we're going to hold from here and we're doing 4, 1, 1. So I'm going down 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 second pause, up and 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, up and 1. That eccentric tempo, you've now gone from a 3 second lift, 2 down, 1 up, to a 5 or a 6 second lift, okay? Time under tension. If we just simply look at the math and the idea of how much more time they are under tension, how much more actin and myosin head stress they're getting as we stretch them down, more benefit they're going to get in tearing muscle fiber in a good way. These are good tears. This is what makes them stronger, okay? They're going to get more benefit of that tear on the way down. And that's going to give them a greater return for potential muscular growth, even hypertrophy growth. And that's what this slide shows. Okay, let me go back to this guy. That's what these two show on the top. I know it's really tiny, but basically what you need to see here is when they assess strength training strategies, hypertrophy, strength, and power are the three things they look at, and they go, what does this style of training produce? Well, with body weight training, there's not a lot of hypertrophy. There's not a ton of strength, and there's a tiny bit of power. Okay. But when you do plyometrics, there's no hypertrophy, hardly any. There's some strength, there's a ton of power. Well, look at eccentric training right there in the middle. You've got 5 out of 5 on hypertrophy. You've got 5 out of 5 on strength, and you've got 4 out of 5 on power. You can hit all of those with one style of training. It just doesn't come around very often. Like, we just don't really learn that. And I'll be honest with you, the reason that not a lot of people do it and why it's not more popular, it's kind of boring, right? It is. It's like, I just demoed 2 of them and I'm like, let's go, dude. It's like dead air on the radio. This is boring. It's boring to just sit in 4, 3, 2. It's boring. So my mind is like, there's got to be another way to do this that gets you this result, but it's a little more entertaining. That's what got me into flywheels. Okay. That's a whole nother talk. I'm not here to talk about that at this moment, someday down the future. But this guy right here, these are the slides I have permission to share, by the way, Tim Suchemol. He's kind of an expert right now. And Jonathan Mike is another one, a really good dear friend of mine. The two of them are like the eccentric experts in our field. And both talk about how beneficial this is for aging populations, how this 4-to-1 tempo is really, really good. It's the home base of eccentric training, okay? And how valuable a flywheeled component or an eccentric component can be. So you're gonna have to sell it as the coach. You're gonna have to sell them a little bit on like, hey gang, we're gonna do goblet squats today at this eccentric tempo. And then the rest of the workout, we're going to do home base 2-to-1. Let's get after it, yada, yada. You don't have to have a whole week with every single exercise dedicated to 4-to-1. That's going to be super boring. This is so boring. It's one of my favorite lines from, what's that Vince Vaughn movie? Key, help me out. Shoot me a text on that one. I'll get a quote back to you guys. One of my favorite ones. The little kid's like sitting on the toilet and he's pooping and the dad's like, this isn't a real bathroom. We're there at Home Depot. It's just so boring. I love that. Anyhow, that's kind of what I think of when it comes to eccentric training. It's boring. Okay. So how do we but as the coaches, we've got to pep it up. We've got to talk it up. We've got to say, and this is where I overcoach as well. I write on the board 5-to-1. Because I know they're probably going to do like 4 or 3.5. Like it's 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. You're like, hey, whoa. Let's 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a long 4 seconds. Okay. When you're under load, that seems like an eternity. So I'll say, hey, we're doing 5-to-1, knowing that I'm probably going to get 4, more likely 3, but at least they're slowing way down compared to what we used to do. And then I'm going to ask them to use kind of the normal load they use. So they're going to be struggling. That's not the question. The question isn't going to be, are they going to work hard? Hell yeah, they're going to work real hard, okay? The question is, are they going to want to keep doing it? Well, if you do it with all 6 exercises in one workout, they're not. But if you do it with 1, maybe 2, 1 or 2, right? Every couple of weeks, it's going to work really well for you, okay? Now, in-house here, I do 1 lift a week with a heavy eccentric focus. And I say we, I mean my clients, right? And then there's 1 week, you saw our program, like that's literally the one I follow, is the one I showed you. We have 1 week where we do quite a bit more. But again, my clients have been trained to this for a while, so we do a little bit more than what I'm suggesting. But if you just that 1 week 3 and that 1 week 6 or 7, week 3 and week 7, if you those weeks just say like, let's deadlift eccentric, let's bench press eccentric, let's do either pullovers or lat pull downs eccentric, let's do goblet squats eccentric, and let's do a horizontal row eccentric. There's one of every primary movement pattern. If you sprinkle those 5 lifts in over your 3 workouts, 2 to 3 workouts, just for that 1 week, you're going to see a drastic change in your people. They're going to get really strong from this. And you say like, oh, is that really possible? It is. Trust me, it is, okay? It's going to work really well. And if you only do it that so often, it won't be boring at all. They'll be like, ooh, a new challenge. But if you do it with all 6 lifts every other day or something like, it's going to get real boring. Okay. They need something more dynamic, but 1 or 2 lifts depending on how many workouts you do, right? Let's say you do 3 in a week, 1 or 2 in each workout, spread it out, those 5, maybe 6 lifts. Okay, let's just make it easy. You do 3 workouts a week, take 2 of those lifts, make them eccentric as they go. And you do that in weeks 3 and week 7. And then they don't see that tempo anymore. Okay, that's going to give them a great potential for muscle tear growth. This is good muscle tearing. Okay, that's good muscle tear growth because it's a whole new stressor they have not experienced. What do we need to be aware of? It's a whole new stressor they have not experienced, team. So there's a great potential for them to be really sore from this. And if you haven't experienced it, go do what I just told you. Do that 4-to-1 tempo on 1 lift in your next workout. And notice the difference when you're like, whoa, I'm sore, okay? Because your muscles are so used to the other tempo. They're doing the exact same movement, the exact same weight even, but as soon as you change this tempo, it's like, whoa, this is hard. And your muscles are gonna go, what the hell? Like, what just happened to us, okay? My point is it works well, almost too well. And if you're too aggressive with it, it can have negative returns. As with anything, if you overdo this, it can hurt people, okay? So when you do it, 1 to 2 lifts every 3 weeks or so, take your time, introduce it, be gentle, okay? And definitely don't increase load. Let them lift what they normally lift. If you're doing 8 reps with this weight, let them do those 8 reps with that same weight, but just slow down the tempo. And let's see if they can even do that. Because as soon as the tempo changes, they go, hey, I need a lighter weight. Fine, take it. But you have to have this tempo. We have to have it, okay? That's what we're searching for. You have to have it. All right, I'm down to a couple minutes here. I am on my last one. So what I want to show you here is when we deadlift, because that's kind of what we've been programming here, we're going to do some eccentric reps. We're going to work on our mobility and our range of motion in this hinge pattern, and we have all the information now armed of why this is beneficial, why we want to do it. We want to address the implement. Hello, implement. Oh, it's our joke. Okay, you're going to step. I know this is very small writing. I just want to get it all on one page so you can take a screen grab and have it because it's all the notes. If I spread this over 3 pages, it makes a mess, okay? So address the implement. Hinge squat. That's either a hinge and or a squat. It's the same setup for either one. You're going to pre-stretch your hamstrings. If you're doing a hinge, you're going to pre-stretch your hamstrings and then flex your knees if you're doing a squat, and you'll take grip, okay, of the implement. We're going to work triangulars here, triangle positions. Heels pushing down, your butt pushing back, your chest going up. And I want you to keep constant tension in all those. We're going to go through all these live here in just a second. I just want to go through them all so you know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about retracting to a neutral position with the shoulders, keeping your chin tucked, keeping everything tight, like you're getting shot out of a cannon. You don't want to be loose, okay? You're going to stand in the locked out position, working those triangles, pushing through. You're going to protect the shoulder girdle and the pelvic tilt by not overarching or over tucking, overextending, okay? And then we'll return with control. And this cue right here, fast forward or reverse. If I were to record you doing this and I played it in forward or backwards, it should look exactly the same. Because the pattern itself is no different. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second, okay? And then we'll repeat that for rep sets, tempo, load, etc. Okay, now what implements do we want to use? I'm a huge fan of kettlebells, dumbbells, T-bells, hex bars. Not a big fan of barbells anymore. If you're a barbell lifter, that's okay. I'm not mad at you. I don't have a problem with it. For me personally, for the people I work with, they don't work well, okay? They don't work well. The depth of the bar is very difficult for most people to get to. Trying to stack up bumper plates under bars, it's just a big mess. Things roll. I'm not willing to invest in D blocks, which are hundreds and now thousands of dollars. But I can do this with a couple of plates, 10-pound plates under a kettlebell, or just get a T-bell and have an adjustable height to pull from. People pull from inside their knees and squat from inside their knees so much better than they do from the outside, okay? Really difficult to get to the floor with a good back and a good hip position and not impinge your shoulders and not stress your neck and your back and get down to a bar that's 8 inches off the floor. And if I could give you one thing to take home from this is, from this particular, hopefully I gave you a lot of things to take home, but in this one particular instance is nobody said, this is the pulling height you have to pull from for the rest of your life. That's just ridiculous, okay? When we just set up a bar and we're like, pick that bar up. Why? Why are you having me pick it up from that height, okay? With my back and my hip issues, I can't. I'm gonna round my back. But if it was 4 inches higher, I'd be great. Well, that's That's what's the problem with me pulling from that height? Well, it's not the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to make a little more work for you. Do you see my point, right? Like, who says that's the height? Why isn't it 2 inches lower? Why isn't it 4 inches higher? Like, who? And I'll tell you the answer. They had to make it something. They had to look at the plate and go, well, the circumference of this thing is going to be 16 inches. So the center of it's going to be 8 inches. That's how high it's going to be, guys. They had to pick something. So don't be afraid to change your heights. There's no gym police that's going to come by and be like, take those out of there. That's not the right height. Who gives a shit? Put them in the right position. Put them in the right position. How do you know the right position? They're not rounding their back and they're not tucking their butt. If you can do those two things, they're not rounding their back and they're not tucking their butt, they're probably going to pull that weight off the floor just fine. Now, there's plenty of, I got scoliosis, I get it, okay? We're talking about majority of folks, okay? Angle 90 grips and or a towel are a great way to give alternative height pulls if you don't have ways to stack and adjust your heights. A towel through a kettlebell gives you 12 inches. And I'm talking about a hand like this, okay? Talking about this. This is an 18-inch towel. I put that through a kettlebell and I choke up on it. I just gained 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches. Wherever I'm comfortable to pull that off the ground, that's fine, okay? Do we want to improve? Yeah, I want you to be able to pick up stuff off the ground. You drop a book, you're not going to go, oh, someone's got to put that book up on a 6-inch bumper plate for me before I can pick it up. Well, no, right? The point is we're going to learn how to get there, but this is a progression. And that's the idea is, let me find where you can pull from, and then we'll work on your mobility, we'll work on your agility, we'll work on all the abilities that I just talked about earlier. We'll get you a little lower, and we can slowly progress this downward, okay? So the depth of the position, the hip position, the rotation of the shoulder, all of that goes into account when you're thinking of the implements that you're pulling from. But literally taking a dumbbell, tipping it upright, and having someone pick that up from between their feet, drastically safer, in my opinion, than having them round over around the outside of their arms, tucking their butt, rounding their shoulders, kinking their neck to try to pick up a bar because that's the height I have to pull it from. Progressing to that is something called a Tilly, a take it, leave it. And it's my favorite because it's a great way for people to learn. I'm going to demo all these in just a second, real quick, okay? It's a great way for people to learn. And then when they get better at that, they can do traditional lifts where they deload the weight on the floor. That's why it's called a dead lift, people, is because you dead the momentum. Every time you set it down, it kills all the momentum. And then you re-engage, pick it up, set it down, kill the momentum. If you just touch and go, you're not doing a deadlift. You're doing a below the waist squat. Basically what you're doing. The whole point of the deadlift is to kill the momentum. It has to go dead weight, and then you pick it up again. There's no pre-stretch. There's no potential kinetic energy, like a slingshot, to help throw the weight back up to where it came from, which that's a great way to train for power and et cetera. But we're worried about strength right now. That's why there's hypertrophy training, strength training, power training, et cetera, conditioning, right? They're all different things. What are you training for? This is for strength. Deadlifts are for strength. Now, we've changed the variables. It could be something different, but in particular to what I showed you on our 8-week progression, that's what this is for. And then at some point, we're going to add a progressive resistance to it, where as you pick it up, it gets heavier. And that's where people really start to take flight, okay? So let's go through this real quick. It'll just take a few minutes. I know I'm a little over. Am I never on time? Am I always? I'm always a little over. If you've seen me present, I'm always a little over, okay? But I think that's a good thing. I would rather you leave with more stuff, okay? All right, so our first one, addressing the kettlebell. Hello, kettlebell. Step to the straddle position. It's right between the arches of my feet. I'm gonna push my hips back, then flex my knees. I'll pick up my implement. When I talk about working the triangles, do this visual with me here real quick, okay? When I get down into this position, toe, knee, ankle, that's a triangle. Toe, ankle, hip, that's a triangle. Knee, ankle, hip, that's a triangle. Knee, hip, shoulder, that's a triangle. Here's a triangle. All the triangles make very strong structures, number one. Number two, one giant triangle of me are my feet, my butt, and my head, okay? So I'm gonna push down hard with my heels, push back hard with my butt, push up hard with my head. If I do all three of those, I should get this initial lift off the floor where they're all moving. My heels are pushing the earth down. My butt stabilizing my back by pushing back. My head stabilizing my core by pushing through those 3 triangles to where they're not triangles anymore. Once I'm in the standing position, I'm going to retract my shoulders to neutral. I don't have to over pull and peacock. I just need to pull to neutral. And then with my pelvis, I don't need to thrust tuck at the top, which some people do. For some reason, that's considered locking out. Stand up straight. I want to get into a position where my pelvis is neutral. It's not tucked under, but I'm not overly bubble butted out, okay? So just stand up to neutral. Then this is the fast forward rewind. It should look the same if I go rewind, fast forward, rewind, fast forward. It should look like the exact same action. You shouldn't notice, are you going up or is he going down? Is this him going up or is him eccentrically going down? It's just on a reel, forward and back and forward and back. It should look exactly the same. And that's the difference between when someone is going to pull up, but then they vertically come down. You see what I'm saying? That looks like a different video now. You're going to go, oh, he's coming up and then he's going down and then he's coming up and then he's going down. You're worming through the lift. You think that's going to hurt your body? Hell yeah. It hurts so much, I can't demo it. I used to, and it hurt me, right? I can't demo it. I have to use my hand now when I do it, because if I do it with my body, it hurts, okay? So if you just practice these basics, and again, I went and got this kettlebell on purpose because I can't get down to that one, right? So that's the purpose, is this kettlebell's higher. They're the same weight. It's just a higher kettlebell. You could put a couple of bumper plates under it, a couple of D blocks under it, a couple of yoga blocks, whatever you want to put under it. We literally use books with our clients. They put encyclopedias under their kettlebells at home just so it's a higher pulling position. But you know what? They can pull 40 pounds from their knees. They can't pull 40 pounds off the floor. Which one's going to give them more bone density issues? Which is the problem. We talked about it. I don't care the height. Let me do it correctly, okay? I hope I drive that home to you. I hope you're getting that, okay? All right, to wrap this, you're addressing the implement, the take it, leave it. Down, take it, down, leave it, down, take it, down, leave it. I get to practice a pickup, I get to practice a put down, I get to deload in between and reset. Great opportunities for clients versus touchdown, wait for a second, re-engage. I didn't get to reset. The reset is me standing up going, all right, here we go. And then I get to go back down and get it. So it's like in powerlifting, it's a whole bunch of singles, okay? It's not like I got to do a set of 8. No, you're doing 8 single attempts. It's a really good way to get them good at picking something up once, over and over and over again, because they're not chained together anymore. We're breaking the chain, and now it's just do one good one, reset, do another good one, reset. So it's a great way to learn this, okay? Now after that, we would then do a proper deadlift, deload, re-engage, deload, re-engage, deload, where I'm killing the momentum, dead weight. And then beyond that, here's one of my tricks I want to show you. Take your band. I love these 1/4-inch orange bands. Lasso the kettlebell. From the other side, take it back through the handle. Line it up with the orange band on the other side. You have the triangle now. You're going to lay that on the floor. You're going to stand on top of it. I'll do this again in a second. When I pick it up, I open my feet up. I'm going to set her down. I'm going to tap dance. That's going to take up all the slack. So now my 8 kilo kettlebell is 8 kilos at the bottom. And now it's 10 kilos, 12 kilos, 16 kilos, back down to 10 or 8. Okay, 8, 10, 12, 16, back down to 8. I'll take it, leave it, and then I'll do traditional dead weight, re-engage, dead weight, re-engage, dead weight. Now I'm ready for the next implement, and I'm going to do that whole process over again. 12 kilos, 12 kilo deadlift, 12 kilo take it, leave it, 12 kilo deadlift, etc. Right? And we build the ladder back up. That's how you progress. All right, I've kept you all on. There's more people now than when we started. This is so cool. Thank you for staying so long. I love to teach. I love to talk. I hope that comes through. This is one aspect, just the hinge pattern. I do this for everything else in our course in Select. Keegan tells me not to say this. I'm going to try not to say it. But let me say this first. I work really hard on this, guys. I love what I do, and I want you to be really good at it. And the reason I'm saying that is this. I'll come back to this in a second. I could have 100 clients, and I've had 140 clients at our business before. And I have 140 people that I can affect, okay? But if I could work with 60 clients and then have 200 trainers that I can teach to work with 60 clients, now we can work with 12,000 people, right? Now we can improve 12,000 people. So for me to look at this and be like, well, I'll just stay in my box and just work with my people, I think that would be great. But I want to reach the next level of folks so you all can do it. And I'm sure there are other ways to train people. I just feel like this is the best way. And if you meet someone that says, I don't know if my way is the best way, then I don't know if you want to listen to them. Because for all the fucking research I do, but for all the research that I do, for all the shit that I read, for all the things, and I am obsessed with this, this is the best way to train people. And I believe that so much, I built a course around it. And I built another course around it. And I built another course. And then I built a library around it. And I built another library around it. And that's what TOA Select is. To the point where we got to the point where like, I'm building one of these things every year. And we just kind of said like, why don't we just build like a little Google, right? Like a little search engine where whatever they need, they could just find it there. And I'm like, that's awesome. They could just select whatever they want. And they say, hey, let's call it TOA Select. And off we went. That's what TOA Select is. You get in there, you get our TOA certificate, our certification. You're an ambassador. You get a cool sticker. Okay, we're working on t-shirts. You get put on our map. It's really cool. Anybody that calls looking for somebody that trains older adults, if you're on the map, we send them in your direction. Okay? And then what? You do that in a month. What's the next 11 months look like? Because it's a year membership. Okay? You have access to 1,500 hours of all of the stuff that I put in there. TOAPEX 1, 2, 3, anything else that I teach, the weekly content I put out, the monthly content we put out, all of it. The whole point is just to give it to you. Just have a place where it's like, here's the value, here's what I think it's worth. You hop on here, get certified, and whatever you need, there's something to search for it. And I'm not arrogant enough to say I've covered everything. We're maybe halfway, okay? But I'm constantly adding to this. And that's the whole point of this. Why is there an Apex 2.0? What was wrong with 1.0? Nothing. A year ago, it was great. It was what I thought was the best. 2.0 now is so much better. Is there still a lot to learn in 1? Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But 2.0 has got the most updated from all the other shit that I read, okay? That's the whole point. That's my whole point of this is if you want more of this, if you've enjoyed this, if you liked what you learned today, and you want that for all of it, then go over and check out Select. Okay, you have two options. It's $79 a month. If you want CEUs, it's $99, or excuse me, if you're not worried about CEUs, and if you want CEUs, it's $99 a month. And you're committed for a year. Why a year? Because it's going to take you that long to go through everything. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there. There is a lot of stuff in there. Okay. I do open Q&As. I do all kinds of stuff. You're going to get your money's worth by 10. I promise you. We have so much stuff in there. But I tell you that not to intimidate you, because if you go in and you're like, whoa, look at all this stuff. How am I ever going to get through it? It's not meant for you to get through it all. It's meant for it to be there when you need it. When you're like, oh, I got a client that is going through cancer treatment, put in cancer, and you'll find 2 presentations I've done on what our concerns are, and me interviewing a doctor who trains people or who takes people through this and what they advise that we do as the coach. You'll find that in there. You'll find one on hip replacements. You'll find one on hip surgery. You'll find one on lower back surgery. You'll find them all in there. But what do I not have? I don't have one in there where I talk to a shoulder surgeon yet, but I talk to Dan, our physical therapist, right? That's my point, is like we're constantly on the grow with this, building it. And so there's great value in Select. If you want just Apex by itself and you're like, I don't know if I need the whole thing, pop on there too and get it. I would love you to do that. Be a part of it however you want. I would love it. If you have questions, fire away. I'm here. I want you to see that this is something that this is my dream, to build this product and to be able to share this information, because I've used this word before. My dharma, my purpose in life is to help spread this info. And if I could boil it down to one thing, it's how do you anti-sarcopenia? That's me. That's what I want you to get out of this. How do we anti-sarcopenia? How do we get people out of being sarcopenic? Because that is the linchpin to a poor quality of life. That's what this whole thing is designed for, how to not let people get weak. And I hope that comes through in here, okay? All right, questions. I'll quit rambling. I tell you not to apologize, not to say how much work you put into it. Yes, you're right. You're right. I always say, like, I'm sorry to say this, you guys. So that's what I was saying when she says, stop apologizing for that. I feel like I'm a car salesman trying to talk you into something. I don't want it to come across that way. I hope that it doesn't. I just want you to know how much work we put into it and why I feel like it's so valuable. And if that's something that, you know, that you find valuable and you want to do, I hope you do it. All right, Tony. Thanks, Robert. I'm hooked. Tea time. Love your passion. The UK now has TOA. That a boy. Nice, buddy. I appreciate you. All right, let me start at the bottom here. Robert, could you show the band wrap around the kettlebell again, please? Yes, let me go back to that really quick. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool. There's a version for this for a dumbbell, for a sandbag, all those. I show you those two in there. Over the top, so you make a big circle. Okay, we just say lasso the kettlebell, and then grab it on the far end and bring it back through the kettlebell, and then line it up with the band on the other side. And a good little visual, I call it the rabbit ears. I say, like, here are your rabbit ears, right? But it's just a little triangle. And then you lay both of those on your side and kind of stack them up tight so you can stand on them. And then stand right on top, right in the middle of your foot. And then, you know, do as good of a proper pickup as you can. Open your feet. And then when you set it down, see how it's all slacky, right? So that's where the tap dance comes in. I'll just have you tap, 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 and it takes up all the slack. And now I'm ready to, as I pick up, tight, 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 tight. But it's right in the middle of my foot. So it's not going anywhere. And then when I'm done, I kind of step back and just baby step out. And now it's set up for me to get right back into it again. Okay, the next time I come back. All right, any other questions? Got fired up here, folks. So happy to have so many people on here. This was really cool. Okay, what flywheel trainer do you like? I like Eccentric, E-X-X-E-N, centric. I like Eccentric. I have played with a couple of the other ones. They're a little bit more expensive, but I think it's a much higher quality product. I have the K-Box, I have the K-Pulley Go, and all the attachments that go with it. It's been a life changer for me. Apex 3.0, what we've been talking about with this, there's a small section of flywheel in Apex 2.0, but there's a really big section we're putting in 3.0. And again, like, that's why I'm not just recreating the same thing over and over again. There's new chapters. This one's got strongman, it's got protocol. We didn't have those in the other ones. We have new program design, next level program design, new exercises in the library. So there's lots of new stuff that's in it, which I think someone asked earlier, you know, what are the differences? So yeah, I think the flywheels, in my personal opinion, 10 to 15 years, you're going to see some in every gym. I think they're going to be that valuable. I just don't really know if a lot of people have recognized and seen them yet, or been able to try them or see the value to them. But basically that 4-to-1 tempo I just talked about, you get that same benefit at 4 times the tempo. Like, you're like squat, return, squat, return, squat, return, squat, return. I can do that and get the same eccentric effect that I would get in 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I just did 5 reps. And I know when you hear that, you're like, how does that happen? When you spin the wheel, it pulls that momentum. You have to decelerate that and throw it back. And then that creates more momentum and it pulls you back down. Like, it's so overly eccentric. It's crazy. It takes a while to get used to it, but it's been a game changer. I'm really excited to share more about that in the future, and I definitely will, okay? Thank you for passion and your safe training approaches. Your exercise techniques are really appropriate to consider for any young person with post-injury surgery medical issues as they incorporate neutral postures, functional movements, and effective training. I agree. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, I mean, this is something we deal with. I work with Fit Body Forever, which is the Fit Body Boot Camp 55 and over program. And they're like, you know, we can use all this stuff with our younger groups too. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's for everybody. It's not just for older people. It's just, that's where my passion lies, right? And when you start looking at something like a take it, leave it, you know, an 18-year-old kid's like, can I just do deadlifts, please? And I'm like, well, why don't we really get good at picking it up first? You know, it's like a social acceptance a little bit more, where with the older populations, they tend to buy in a little bit more to a lot of this, where with the younger kids, even though it's appropriate for them, they're a little more turn and burn. They just want to go for it. So, all right. Scott, Robert, what's the difference between Apex course and the foundation of programming that I took a couple of years ago? Foundation of programming was programming only. We basically went through how we create that 8 weeks. In this one, I show you that 8-week. I talk about it for about 8 minutes, knowing that the foundation of programming has already been laid in the previous courses. If you're a Select member, you have access to that too. Every course that I've taught in the past, it's all in Select. Everything is archived in there, every single one of them. So if there's something, oh, I want to see that one again, it's all in there, okay? You can get it in there too. But they're basically building. And I would build them in a way where whatever, you know, wherever we stopped, we go to the next one. But I can't assume that everyone has done that first one, right? Even though it's kind of like the next level. So I try to get the ground introduction and then like, hey, let's hurry up here now to the new level. That's kind of where we bring it along and kind of advance it up there as best we can. But yeah, I think that's where you'll have a much better understanding of everything going on in APEX 2.0 if you were there for 1. And then if you were there for foundations before 1, you'll know it even better. But APEX 2.0 does stand on its own. You can do it on its own and be just fine, okay? The Eric's pad, we got that. Thanks for doing this, Robert. I hope to send out the replay. Oh yeah, we had a couple people who had to leave early. All right, picture around the screen. Oh yeah, I thought that was there still. Great information. Please send me the slides. If you're recording this, sorry, I must go. Training session, I got an email address. Okay, good. Good to see you too. I really like the value in being part of your format and your program. I appreciate everything you do, but my question is, I'm an independent contractor / personal trainer and I go to clients. I don't have a facility. Do you offer options in your program that use equipment that I can travel with? Yes. I've seen how many of you use the racks and the bands, but I love that. I love it, but I don't have that equipment. So basically in Select, like our foundations course, the basic first one that you do, we build everything with dumbbells, kettlebells, and bands. And the bands are, you know, travel anchors that our clients can hook up on doors. And so that all travels. And that's, as long as you have that stuff, you can do all the basics. Anything extra is just a bonus. It's a good perk. If you have like a tank that you can pull out of the back of your car, if you have, you know, that's a sled. If you have a flywheel that's mobile that you can hook on to your car bumper and then have your clients come outside and do, you know, like if you have something like that, we introduce all that. But yeah, the program, the foundation is built around dumbbells, kettlebells, bands. And as long as you have those, that you have pretty much access to everything. Now, I go into it with this, okay? If you're a TOA affiliate, which is a whole different thing, I am assuming everything that I send you, you have everything that I have, because that's how we build that business model, is you have what I have, and I program for that. If you're an ambassador, anything else, it's dumbbells, kettlebells, bands. Now, you have access to see that other stuff and go, oh, if I have a hex bar, I could use it. I just don't program that, assuming that you don't have it. Does that make sense? So we program for basic, and then we program for what you see here. and then the affiliates, which we have, you know, 8 full affiliates and like 8 juniors, they all know that I'm programming using all this, and they all have that stuff. So there's ladders in our programming and everything that we do. And so you can always kind of move that up and select which one, you know, you access and such. But yeah, we definitely build it for people that if we know you're traveling, you're on the go, you should be good. You should be good. All right, other questions here. Appreciate your hard work. I'm a recent Cairo grad and I'm getting my CSCS soon. Hey, nice, big inspiration. Hey, well, thank you. Good luck, number 1 with the CSCS. You'll be very happy that you got that. And it is very difficult to obtain that. And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to scare you away. The beauty of this is when you get that CSCS, that lets people know right away, there's a level of credibility. I've put in time and commitment and I know my craft. It's now, can you apply it? That's where things change. So it's awesome you're going to get that, but remember, that's half the battle, as G.I. Joe would say. You got other stuff to go improve as well. But I'm more than happy to be here to help teach you that and to help go along. I'm glad that you found some good stuff out of today. So thank you. Can you show how to use the towel with the kettlebell? Yes, I'm happy to do that. I love your mouth, your potty mouth, and your solid knowledge of training. Sometimes those words just come out. I had one lady get really, really mad that I said a word I'm not going to say now. But basically it means jerk that we say here in America. But she got really, really mad that I said that. And it begins with a D and it ends with a bag, if you know what I mean. And I called somebody that because this guy was attacking another colleague of mine. And I was like, and she got so upset. And since then, I'm like, don't curse. Try your best not to curse. But every once, it just comes out. Like this is a passionate component. And when you're passionate, sometimes things just come out of your mouth. So, if anybody was offended, I am sorry, but that's me, that's me. I'm glad that you don't mind because it does happen on occasion. Not in the courses. I'm better in the courses, but on the fly like this, yeah. All right. Happy to see you're consistent. Yeah, Dr. Stewart, I mean, very quick story, but long story made as short as I can make it. When I met Stuart McGill for the first time, he quote said, "I know your work." And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I couldn't believe it. You know who I am? I know who you are. He had a signed autographed book with my name on it and handed it to me. Blew me away. I couldn't believe it that the guy knew who I was. That was really cool. Any suggestions of carries? Not a lot of space to work with. Yeah, I mean, we do carries in here. I'm going to do the towel thing. Don't think I forgot about you. Okay. I just want to make sure I was going to demo a few things. The carries are, you can do carries right here, right? Like you have this much space. The more distance you have, obviously, the better. But we do something called walk the planks, where we're doing our suitcase carry, and I'll do the tempo and I'll say step, and they have to step, or I'll say forward, backwards, forward, backwards, right? And all I'm doing is time. Okay. Yeah, they're getting balance, coordination. They're listening, auditory component. There's a lot of good stuff that we're getting from it. But what they're really getting is time, because that's the same amount of time, 30 seconds that it would take me to walk 30 meters and then put it in my other hand and come back. So you could do that in 10 feet, right? And it's just time. I just need time where I'm trying to move and manipulate and adjust load on one side and not fall over to the other. Or if you're going to do a farmer, I'm a huge suitcase carry fan. We'll do suitcase carries 10 to 1 over farmer carries anytime. So versus one in each hand, just have a weight in one hand, okay? So much more efficient. You get so much more work out of that. Can you carry as much load? No, but you get more out of it, in my opinion, especially when you're trying to improve people's gaits. They do really well when they're overloaded on one side, because they're like, whoa, they gotta get down, and they really do a good job. All right, so here's my 18-inch towel, okay? Put that through the kettlebell, and then to make it as long as I can, I hold on to the very end. So here, when I go to deadlift, I'm down, okay? So I can pull from this height. But then if I want to go a little lower, I just choke up on the towel. I take up 2 inches, and now I got to go a little deeper, right? And then I could choke up a little more, and now I got to go a little deeper. The beauty of this too is I'm not in a pronated grip, which is internal rotation of my shoulder, and I'm not outside my knees, okay? So I'm inside, and I can turn my hands to neutral, which is a huge value for me in the shoulder and in my hips. I can pull and lift from here really, really well. I have thought many times about finding some like special material out there of a towel where you're like, yeah, this is my fitness towel, but it's like unbreakable, like it's made out of Kevlar, but it's soft. So you could still like wipe your brow, but it's also like you could hang off it and do pull-ups, and don't steal my ideas, people. This is mine, trademarked today. I'm kidding. I want to find something like that. I think it'd be cool to have like a fitness towel, that you could do that with, and you don't worry about it ripping. I haven't, ripped any implements here, but any bands, but we don't really lift anything over like 70 pounds. So it all, these guys can handle it pretty well. All right. Where was I? Carries, consistent doctors. Okay. Great value and information. Thank you. Please send to, okay, I'll do my best to get these off here, but I think when I go to close this, I'm going to have to go find these email addresses. So if you could email me, that would be awesome. It's so much easier for me to send it back to you than to go and find these, but I'll do my best. Thank you. I know some people are going. I know we've been going forever here. If I've taken foundations, but not Apex 1.0, can I take Apex 2? Yes, you'll be completely fine. You're married to a sailor, so not helping here with the potty mouth. Yeah, Keegs and I, we tear it up pretty good, the two of us. That's true. Yeah, but I love it. Awesome. Great information. Thank you. We'll do that. Thank you. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, team. I've kept you long enough. We've been on here for 90 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good stuff. Any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. You see my email address right there, robertlinkul@gmail. Super simple. You can head over to the website, go to Instagram. You could slide into my DMs, which I used to think was a dirty thing. It just means you're sending me a message directly, DM. So slide into my DMs. You can send me one there. Such an old person. That's what movie was that? That's Jurassic Park. That's the Keeg, help me out. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about. The old guy from the first Jurassic Park. Doctor, yada, yada. That's one of those lines where I feel like an old man not knowing what some of these kids talk about when they're DMing each other. Anyhow, if anybody has any questions, you can direct message me. Instagram, Facebook, we're on all of them. YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube if you like our channel, if you like our stuff. We got a lot of good stuff on there. We're trying to grow that over there. Anyhow, I think that's everything. Thank you to all of you. I can give you back your money. I can give you back a product. I can never give you back your time. So the fact that you spent 90 minutes with me, it really makes me happy. I appreciate it. I hope you got great value out of it. If you need anything from me at any time, reach out. Much love and appreciation to all of you. And as always, please continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia, people. Much love. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.